Welcome welcome all to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a tiny little bit of fun at Toyotas, then this is the podcast for you. And I guess, whatever else you like to do in Toyotas. We've done this only 315 times, ? Jimmy, are you here? Jimmy,
I'm somewhere.
You're somewhere? Where are you? Because you're not here in the studio with me.
No, I'm tired of sitting next to you. I am down pretty much
literally
on the
enough.
beach. Yeah, that's true. And I haven't done it much this week either. But I'm down on the beach down in Carmel.
Wow. Yeah, you were showing me the view out your window there, and you're like literally pretty much on the beach.
Yeah, no, the address is 1 Ocean Avenue.
Number 1 Ocean Avenue. Isn't there a song named after that?
I don't know. Maybe.
Ocean Avenue by Yellow Card, man.
Yeah. Supposedly a few houses down is John Madden's house. Excuse me. And then I know back in the day I went to college in this area and I used to install home audio equipment. And I went to a lot of houses in Pebble Beach and down here in Carmel. And so only a few houses up is Brad Pitt's house from where we're at right now.
Gotcha. Wow. So can I give you like $50 if you can get a picture with John Madden and a MORRFlate?
Well, unfortunately, John Madden is no longer with us. He passed away late last year.
Oh, yeah, that would be a little easier to do then maybe. Well, I can use this headstone maybe. Anyways.
Bit morbid, but yeah, I could probably arrange it.
Yeah. Oh, geez. God, hold on. Let me turn off all these like background noises going on the laptop here, since they like to go into our recording studio, our virtual recording studio.
I'm not hearing any of them, so. Yeah, I am mobile right now. We are trying out our the software that we have gotten. We're testing it out, and for the first time, we're trying it on cell phones. So hopefully, it's nice and clear for everybody.
Yeah, I was actually pretty impressed with the sound quality coming through with your microphone, just coming straight through your cell phone, and it's just kind of it's always fascinating to me what technology can do and make life easier for listeners, for people doing recordings on a budget, and all sorts of fun things. So yeah, when they launched the app, I was like, badass. Let's see how it works.
Yeah, test number 1, ready, go.
Yeah, here we go. So cool, man. So you're down in Carmel. You had an interesting. Well, I guess let's hold off on that. Let's get into a little bit of our housekeeping first. We want to do a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to do a kind of catch-up housekeeping episode next Thursday, I believe, is what we're planning on. So everybody hang in there. We'll be doing one in a little bit, and this one for today is pretty much going to be short and sweet. We mainly have a wiener, 2 wieners.
We have 3 wieners.
Oh, we have 3? Nice.
Well, Go ahead.
I was going to say, I have 2 winners. What do you have a winner for?
Well, we have 2 winners already, but we also have to do the drawing still for the winner for our Patreon and irate group.
Yeah, I was going to do that next Thursday.
Oh, so we're doing the 2 winners
since we didn't do it before recording. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. We have 2 winners.
Okay, we got 2 wieners. So yeah, these winners were for the Instagram contest with the EVA foam trays, where you tagged a buddy, and then you and a buddy would win 5 EVA foam trays each. So Jimmy did the drawing. It looks like we had 3,289 comments that were eligible for winning. Jesus Christ.
Yes, that's so crazy.
You guys are awesome. And the winner that was picked randomly, we used a cool little piece of software that literally just goes through and picks one at random of the 3,289. Winner is _Burns, J Burns 5, and the friend that they tagged is at Danny Valentin Axo. So congratulations, Jay Burns 5 and Danny Valentin Axo. We'll be getting in contact with you guys to figure out how to ship you your winnings.
Yeah, massive congratulations, guys. Thanks for everybody playing along. It was one of my most viewed reels in like the most recent or more recent times, so it's kind of funny. But I think it's just because of all the support and all the comments and everything that was going through. And thank you to GearWrench as well for putting up such a wonderful prize.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep in mind, everybody, when you're looking out for some tools, GearWrench does support the channel a lot. They do a lot of really cool stuff for listeners. So definitely consider that when you're looking to purchase a new wrench set or a new socket set or some pass-throughs or some really badass EVA foam trays. I need to get some.
Yeah, for real. Hey, Corey, I could use a few.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the when you were shooting the video and seeing all of them set up in your tool drawers, I was like, man, those just look damn good in there, and it's super functional. It's super easy to find everything. Like, I've been working out of my tool drawers for a little bit here with the whole clutch saga with Kermit, and they definitely don't look that clean and organized at all.
No, yeah, and they fit in the GearWrench toolbox drawers perfectly.
They do.
We'll have to probably give the ones that I have away to one of maybe our patrons or something. I don't know, because I think one of them got a little scuffed because they're so tightly fit that when I pulled them back out, I think one of the sides got a little scuffed up. So maybe we can get a new one from GW Corey.
Nice. Yeah, that'd be cool. We'll have to hit him up. GW Corey, I know you're listening. So, I think that's about all the housekeeping. Oh, no, we have another thing. We are giving away for this month, July, a Spartan rope and 2 soft shackles. So, really cool prize. Huge shout out to Spartan Rope for doing that. It's a new owner now from who used to own it. He picked it up about a year and a half ago, and a really cool guy. And I actually got to run into the old owner out at Overland Expo. So we'll get into that story a little bit here as we get into today's episode. But the new owner, Nye, he's a great dude. Looking to do some really cool stuff. Got some made in the USA product in for Spartan Rope. So definitely go check that out over at SpartanRope.com. And I'm going to double check that. I think it's like Spartan Rope Recovery. Nope.
Or Spartan Rope USA.
Yep, SpartanRope.com. I had it right the first time. So, go check it out. They got some really cool stuff over there. Some super beefy kinetic ropes, some really nice soft shackles. One of the things I really, really like and appreciate from their soft shackles is that it has a full sheath cover that covers up pretty much the entire soft shackle. So that helps the soft shackle getting damaged from being used as anchor points or connection points. But it also helps the soft shackle from getting damaged due to UV rays if you keep it out in the sun for a long extended amount of time. So nice little addition to the soft shackle that some companies are starting to get on top of, but he actually purposefully went out and got on top of that and put that on his soft shackle. So kudos to him.
Yes, awesome. And thanks for donating the product for this month's giveaway.
Mm-hmm. So we'll be doing June's big giveaway, which was the tool chest, the tool chest topper, and the 5 EVA foam trays to the grand prize winner. We'll be doing that next Thursday's episode as we do FNGs and birthdays and do all that. We just have been out on the road. We had a little bit of a crazy start to July here, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in this episode. So next Thursday is when we'll get caught up with housekeeping stuff for everybody that's interested in who the winner of June's giveaway was, as well as some FNGs and birthdays. So cool, man.
Yeah, sounds good. And apologize to everybody that's on the edge of their seats waiting to win. But yeah, we feel that we need to be together and organized and synced to be able to do that giveaway. Yeah,
there's a lot that goes into prepping that one. So cool. Speaking about our kind of exhaustive travels here and why you're in Carmel, obviously people heard the pie episode. And so you started out going up to Bend, Oregon, and then left on the Saturday of Overland Expo and went down to Carmel. And now you're in Carmel for a week?
We didn't drive all the way to Carmel from Bend. We drove home for a night in a resting point.
Ah, okay.
And then we drove the next day down to Carmel.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, so we're down here. The assistant has a family reunion going on. The major part of the family reunion was actually on Sunday, and that's why we had to leave the expo so early. And then one of the family members owns a house right on the beach in Carmel and owns a house in Pebble Beach. And so we have free access to these houses for 1 week. They rented them out or didn't rent them out specifically to save them for us, the family reunion, to stay at.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Absolutely gorgeous here.
So you literally... Yeah, so you got essentially a highly, highly discounted stay right on the beach at Carmel.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all we technically need, besides food and gas and, just normal expenditures during travel, all we have to pay for is the cleaning fee.
Nice. That's a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah, and for our listeners that have been following along with our life story, they know that I went to college down here in Monterey, so I have a lot of friends in this area, and it's kind of fun to get down here and actually spend some time, because a lot of times when I come through, I'm only here for a night, and so I've been able to meet up with some friends that are still down here from college, and take the assistant and mini assistant to places that I frequently visited when I was down here in college, and tour them around, be a little tour guide. So it's been a lot of fun.
Nice. Tour guide Jimmy in the hizzy.
Yeah, right.
So cool. Have you gotten to do any fun off-roading stuff down there? Has it been pretty much just kind of catching up with people and spending time with the families?
Yeah, I've been tempting to try to take the CRV out onto Carmel Beach, but the assistant hasn't let me yet.
Oh, come on.
Yeah,
it is only two-wheel drive though, right?
I know, yeah. Air down and some speed, I think I could make it.
Yeah, I think you could too. Just keep telling yourself that, and you can, all things are possible, right?
Absolutely. Carmel does have some of the softest sand around, though, so it'd be fun to try it for sure.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Well, cool. So you're coming back later on this week. Do you have any plans for this weekend once you get back, or are you just kind of like getting caught up with life from being gone for 2 weeks?
Yeah, caught up from life mainly. I've got to get a bunch of panels done and get caught up in emails. I've been trying to keep track of some of the emails along the way whenever I have some downtime, but definitely panels is my weekend goal, and fingers crossed I can catch back up, but we'll see. I've only had one person email me since my departure to Expo and down here that was a little upset the fact that he's been waiting so long for their panel. But, when I pointed out the fact that I had a banner up on the website that said I was on vacation, and when I told him I was down at a family reunion, he was understanding. We'll leave it there.
There you go. That's nice. Yeah. It's tough running a business when you're taking big, long trips. It's like, yeah, it's, a lot of people think that, well, and maybe it's big business kind of thing, but like small business owners, you don't get to take a whole lot of vacation time, because if you're not there, then stuff doesn't get done. And if stuff doesn't get done, then, there's no paycheck there. So it's tough,
right.
man.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially being a solo business owner where everything revolves around what I do. If I'm gone, there's nothing happens.
Yeah, absolutely nothing happens. Yeah, I've at least been lucky enough to kind of get to the point where I have a couple employees that can keep orders going out the door. But man, customer service stops, and any kind of R&D or troubleshooting that needs to happen or other stuff, it just all kind of comes to a halt, and things just kind of, I don't know, barely sustain. But those guys did kick ass. So shout out to the MFers over at the warehouse, working their little tookuses off.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of MFers, you got a wonderful shirt on up at Expo.
I did. Yeah, it was the same shirt that I had that I had worn on the Motorhead Garage segment on Motor Trend. So for those who haven't seen that, I need to get that video. I got the video shortly before leaving to Expo from the production company of the segment. It's like 6.5 minutes long, I think. And so we're going to put that video up on the MORRFlate Instagram as a IGTV, I guess, so whatever they're doing, those longer videos that they do. So we'll put it up there as the full segment, so people can check it out. But I had one of my favorite things, and one of the reasons why I chose MORRFlate for the name was that the logo ends up being MF. Which of course is a fun to say and get people to say as well. And so I, on the shirt it says MF or Tyler, and the logo is an MF with apostrophe R that Murphy came up with. So on the back it says, "Are you an MFer?" And then it says MORRFlate multi-tire inflation deflation kits, right? So I wore that shirt on for the recording of the Motor Trend Network show there, the segment on the show, and I was like, man, I don't know if they're gonna let me do this or if I'm gonna have to take the shirt off or change or something. And they let me wear it. They never said anything about it while we were recording, and as soon as we were done recording, they called for, that's a wrap, good job everybody. The host reaches over to me and he goes, "Great job, you're awesome, you're a natural on camera, and by the way, I love your shirt. Can we get some of those?" So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I have accomplished one of my bucket lists, which is to get MFer on a network television show, and it's kind of fun. I one of my fun things, my fun hobbies, is to get people to unknowingly curse. So, yeah, that was fun. So I wore that shirt up there, up at Overland Expo all weekend long, and I got some fun comments about it. There was only one person that was like, "Ooh, I don't know if you should be wearing that shirt," and blah blah, and they're like. And I was like, yeah, it's just kind of a fun joke. I get to tell everybody I'm an MFer. And they just the couple looked at me and they were like, well, I guess if that's what you want. And kind of like after that, they just started dropping out of the conversation and walked off. I was like, some people just don't get the jokes in life.
Yeah. Those are the people you don't want to have your product anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They're the no fun people.
They probably only have 29-inch tires.
That's true. Yeah, they don't need it anyways. No, everybody needs one. No, Overland Expo was a lot of fun. I got to hear yours and the assistant mini assistant's version and recollection of Overland Expo, which I thought was kind of fun. I thought it was you're just asking the mini assistant all these questions. She's just giving you one-word answers. Yes. No.
Yeah.
No.
I really tried.
I didn't think about that. Okay.
Yeah, there was probably 10 minutes of audio before that section of audio that was released of me actually trying to dive in to get more explanation from the mini assistant, but she
okay.
had a lot of ums, ahs, and silence and never had any valid reason why she liked any of it. And then the assistant took over and started asking one word, sort of answers. And then she kind of opened up a little bit more and was able to answer the questions. So she's not quite ready for podcasting yet, I guess.
Nice. She's much more of a stage girl.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give her lines.
Doing plays and musical. Yeah.
And give her choreographed moves, and she can nail it in a matter of hours. But ask her to explain why she liked certain campers wasn't her forte.
You gotcha. I will admit the Cricket was my favorite camper up there too. So she's got good taste. We'll leave it. We can give her that. So.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah.
Yep. So anyways, the Overland Expo, you got there. When did you get there? Pretty much first thing Friday morning you were out there. Or Thursday, because that was setup day. I ended up driving all the way up from Sacramento to Expo to, Redmond, Oregon. In one day, I left at like 5:30 a.m. in Sacramento and ended up in Redmond about 2:30. So wasn't too terrible. I was able to get everything set up, and and I kind of was like planning out the booth. I was hoping I'd be able to kind of park the truck, trailer, and the pop-up in there. But it was the booth space was 15 foot wide and 20 feet deep. And so I couldn't do that. But if the booth had been 20 feet wide and 15 feet deep, I would have been able to do it. So I realized that I couldn't have the truck there. So I parked the trailer in the booth space with the pop-up tent. And then I had to go take the truck and park it out in the parking lot. And when I was going out there to do that, I saw you and Lee rolling in as I was leaving the truck and leaving it in the parking lot. So I was like, oh, hey, you guys are here already. That's kind of cool. I wasn't expecting to see you today. But you guys rolled through. And so I got to meet up with you guys and hear a little bit about how your day was going. And that first day was kind of just set up and nothing really interesting. Just everybody's in there setting up. So we ended up, once we all got set up and kind of got our spaces figured out, we went out to dinner at downtown Redmond. How did that go?
It was a lot of fun out there. It had a really nice downtown that I did not expect it to have. When we were pulling it, well, first, who was it? Lee found a spot and we went there and the place was like, yeah, we're closing in 10 minutes. We can do to-go orders.
So
and
this guy,
like, no.
this guy cracked me up. Yeah, he cracked me up. So not only was because I don't know, Redmond's a small town, so everything closes at like 8 p.m. and we were going out at like 7:45 is when we were getting around to places. And we walk in this, was it a Thai food restaurant, I think? And
it was
this
Thai.
guy like walks over and he like walks over, throws a couple of menus on the counter and just says, hey guys, here, you can place an order. It's to go only. We've already closed up the dining room. And then he just kind of like walked away. And so we kind of looked at each other. We're like, do we want to get something to go? And we're like, no, we kind of want to sit down. And so we kind of looked over at him. We're like, I think we're going to go and just, go find another place we can sit down at. And he didn't acknowledge us whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't think he was too happy that we walked in at the last hour or the last minute, So from there, I forgot who it was. Somebody else, probably Lee again. I think we put him in charge of that. It might have been Dakota because we were hanging out with Dakota from Delta as well, since Delta Dave wasn't there this trip. But one of them found a rooftop bar that served some food that was open pretty late. So we drove deeper into Redmond from there. And on the way, when we kind of went around the corner from the rooftop bar, we saw this big white truck that's very recognizable with a logo on the side of it. And who was it that was hanging out in downtown Redmond?
None other than Dimitri and Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan from Stellarbuilt.
Yeah, Dimitri and Ryan. So Rob wasn't there yet, but he got there later in the evening. So
yeah, when after a few drinks, Rob showed up.
Yeah, he did. But it was funny. We were driving down through the downtown area, and I was just like, "Hey, that's Dimitri's truck." And so we're all like, "What is he doing? Did you know he was coming?" We were like, "No, nobody knew he was going to be up there." And so you called Dimitri. How did that conversation go?
Yeah, that was fun. I pretty much teased him for like a solid 5 minutes trying to figure out where he was. I was like, "Where are you at?" He's like, "I'm up in Oregon." I'm like, "Oh, you at Richmond?" And he's like, "No, I'm in Redmond." And what are you doing up there? "Oh, I'm going to Expo." "Wait, the Expo's going on? I thought that was next weekend." And I just kept teasing him. He's like, eventually at some point, he's like, "Jimmy, what do you need, man?"
What do you...
And I was like, "Oh, nothing. I'm just out here standing next to your truck wondering where you're at." And he's like, "Oh, shit." And so he their hotel window that they had opened up right to their truck. And so he's like, "Hey, I'm 2 stories up waving at you in the window." And I was like, "Cool." And then I said, "Actually, we're coming into that same hotel to go to the rooftop bar. Come up and meet us." And he's like, "Okay." So we went up there. We perused the menu and looked at a few their drinks and decided that the food option wasn't exactly what we wanted. So we just had a drink, and then somebody up top found, that rooftop bar had a fantastic view of the sunset and of the downtown Redmond. And you were from that spot, you could see a lot of the volcanic mountains around, and there was there was the Three Sisters, there was a mountain called Broken Top, and there was one called Bishop, I think. And north of the Sisters, I'm not sure, but I think there was Mount Washington is what the other one was. So you had this fantastic view of all these mountains in the area. So we had our drinks, and then I forgot who found the Mexican food restaurant, but then we went down through the lobby and out and like 1 block down to this Mexican food restaurant.
Yeah, I don't know if you can, I mean, if you're categorizing it as a Mexican food restaurant, I think it could, I mean, I don't know. They had a lot of different stuff.
They really
Mexican was such a
pasta.
small part of what they had.
Yeah, they had a wide variety of foods. They had pasta and Mexican food. I don't remember if they had anything else.
They had American food too. They had burgers. They had steaks. They had Italian. What was that thing that Dimitri got? I don't remember what that was called, but yeah, they had a lot of different options. I mean, the menu alone was, I don't know, 8-10 pages deep in the menu. It was impressive, but the food was phenomenal.
It was really, really good. But the one menu item I remember was a $47 burrito. Yeah, and it had all sorts of fun things in it that I would never eat because I don't eat those things. But yeah, no, they had some really good stuff there. Everybody who got something, I think we all pretty much got different things, and everybody said that their dish was fantastic. So highly recommend. I don't remember what it was called. I kind of wish I had remembered or written it down somewhere, but yeah, there was that restaurant was a lot of fun, and then after that, we all just kind of split up and went back to our areas, I guess. So we headed back to Overland Expo, the Deschutes County Fairgrounds, and we dropped you off at Charlotte on the way in, and then Lee and I went on in and hung out with Dakota for a little bit, and then pretty much just went to bed. It was a pretty mellow night, Thursday night. And then Friday was opening of Expo. So at 8 a.m. was when the floodgates were going to be opening up, and everybody was going to get a little crazy at Expo. So, or at least that's what everybody was thinking. This year was the first year the first event that Expo had been held up and in the PNW. And so everybody's that was there pretty much, except I felt like everybody but me had been to Flagstaff and Overland Expo West. And everybody was saying how freaking crazy West gets. And so I'm kind of expecting this craziness, and it wasn't really that crazy. And I don't know if that was just because of where my booth was in the fairgrounds, on the layout of the event, or if there was just that much lower attendance by the attendees, I guess the participants, people that were coming in to hang out, not the vendors. But it was an interesting event. It was a good pace in the sense that it was steady. There was always people kind of coming by, but it wasn't like super, super crazy the way some of the other vendors had explained West typically is. So I thought it was good. I had a good time. It was fun being down there and running into some listeners of the podcast, meeting some longtime customers. It was a good opportunity to meet a bunch of our bigger influencers that were down there. But it was unfortunate that I was there for work, I guess, in a way, because I didn't really get outside of my quadrant of the event. So I didn't get to go over and go see Iron Man. I didn't really get to go over and see the Earth Roamers. I never even got to go down my aisle to check out the truck house. Pretty much my whole world was pretty much confined to the 3 to 4 vendors around me for Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday I got to go out and do a little bit of networking in the morning. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot to really say about Expo itself, just because my view of it was so narrow, I guess. Yeah, I thought, because I was there only on Friday, so I kind of want to hear your difference in a little bit about the difference of quantity of people that were showing up between Friday and Saturday, because I'm always, my understanding is that Saturday is usually the large day. But when I was walking around on Friday, and I can compare West to PNW, I was at West 2 years ago, and I felt that West was more spread out. The venue was more spread out. And so I felt like PNW was more condensed because of that. And so I felt that there was a lot more booths, a lot closer together, and it was a lot easier for people to get around and walk around. So I'm not even sure if West or PNW, which one had more vendors, because it was really hard to compare. I also heard a few people saying that West this year wasn't extremely busy because they think that a lot of people that from the PNW area or even California were waiting for the PNW event because they didn't want to have to drive, 16, 20 hours to go down to Flagstaff, where they could wait for a few weeks later, a month later, to drive only a matter of hours to go to the PNW event. So I would be curious to actually get some stats from Overland Expo to see how many vendors were at each event, each one, and how many participants came to each one. But there was a ton. There was a massive amount of vendors. We, in the one day that I walked around with the family, didn't see the entire event. It was, we didn't get to like the Sprinter van area or the motorcycle area or even a chunk of the, trucks area, but we did get to walk around. We did see a lot of things, and I was able to do a little bit of networking and got a few business cards that I still need to write back and respond to. But I thought it was a great event. I feel that the venue was really nice, though it didn't have a lot of shade, unfortunately. So, and it was some warm days up there. So how did you feel about Friday to Saturday?
I would say Saturday was twice as busy than Friday, but Friday and Saturday both were great days. I liked the pace of how many people were coming in and coming down that aisle with the booth, and how many people were around. Saturday was definitely busier than Friday, but I'm not saying that Friday was not busy, I guess, in that sense. Like Sunday was not busy. Like there was very, very little going on Sunday. It didn't seem like very many people wanted to come out on Sunday. So Sunday was not busy at all. I felt like most of the people walking around on Sunday were a lot of the vendors going around checking out each other's booths on Sunday. But Friday and Saturday were great. It was a fun day. It was very hot out, in my opinion. And like me, and that's, I don't know, my perspective of hot isn't the same as other people's, because heat just affects me more than other people for some reason. And, so like I had to stay in the shade. And so I had, my Iron Man, awning, the 270 degree awning out on the trailer. So I had that popped up and open, and I had the pop up for MORRFlate, and I would just pretty much just try and stay under those two shade sources the entire day, Friday and Saturday, just because the sun was really starting to get to me towards in the afternoon. But it was good. It was fun talking to people, like I said, having some of the listeners coming by, having some customers coming by. There was a lot of times I'd be talking to somebody, and somebody else would walk by behind them, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, you need to buy one of these. I've had mine for a year and a half, and it's fantastic. Best decision I've ever made off-roading." And I was like, "Oh, thanks, man. I'll slip you 20. I'll Venmo you $20 later." And so we had that happen a few times. There was speaking of, people coming out to PNW and not going to Flagstaff that are kind of from Pacific Northwest or California, NorCal regions. There was a lot of people there from Northern California. So like the greater Sacramento area and the Bay Area, a ton of people out there. I think easily 65, 70% of the people I talked to seemed to like they were from Northern California. So it kind of became the ongoing joke of, hey, it's really cool. We could all, drive 8 hours up here to Oregon for a big off-road meetup. And so to see each other and hang out and talk to each other. It was just kind of the ongoing joke Friday and Saturday, I felt like. But yeah, they were all there. Good crowd. The venue is gorgeous. From what I've heard from like Flagstaff is that Flagstaff tends to be a lot of dirt, rocks, like gravelly rocks and pavement. And this venue was like all grass. So it was really nice keeping the dirt down, keeping the dry dust down, keeping the heat off of the pavement. And so I did really appreciate that aspect of it. I probably would have died if it was like Johnson Valley again, but the heat we were experiencing. So
from my experience for the camping side of things, though, the Flagstaff event is in the trees and in like more of a brush nature sort of area, where I was camped at the venue was just a big open wide grass field. And so there was really, I don't have an awning on my truck. And so for me, it was like, oh, I'm stuck out in a big old grass, arena sized football field or whatever. And with no shade. And I didn't bring an awning. I didn't bring a pop-up tent. I didn't bring, anything besides the RTT. And so if I was camping at Flagstaff, I would have been able to find myself some shade with a tree or a few trees. And so I do feel that the camping side of Flagstaff was a little bit nicer because it's a little bit more in nature in a way, where the one at PNW was just a big grass field.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of like, I don't know. There's a bunch of like, from what I've heard, God, I really wish, I can't remember the name of that reservoir. I was trying to think of a couple episodes ago. I still can't remember it. But there's been a couple of off-roading or overlanding events down in that reservoir. That sounds like kind of the same thing. It's just a giant field and it's just a bake out because there's no shade or trees or anything. So that's kind of neat. I didn't hear that Flagstaff kind of had the camping area out within trees, so it's kind of a little bit more naturey, a little bit more shelter and protection from the elements there.
Yeah, it's definitely nice. One of the things I think I would like to do one of the next expos I go to is don't even go in the venue, but just go camp and walk around in the camping area with all the other attendees and just video / like review people's vehicles. I think that's one of the best things about expos is to just get a good idea of how you want to build your rig or what you want to do to your rig, because there's so many different varieties of products and people showing off different products all at once that you can get a good idea of how you want to build your rig out.
Yeah, totally. So I learned while I was there, somebody told me that I should go enter my trailer into the DIY section. And I was like, the what? There's a DIY section? Like what's over there? And it was pretty much just like supposedly people who either built their own trailers or built out their own rigs and didn't use a lot of name brand products to do it. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I wanted to go over to that section, just look at the engineering ideas that people came up with for this hobby that we enjoy. I never even figured out where that section was or where it was located to get over there and check it out. But that would be a really fun one to do. And I guess you can kind of do the same thing just by going through the camping area for the general camping for the volunteers and the participants and everybody who's hanging out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even know that was an area too. That would have been a lot of fun to go walk around and see how people invented things or overcome obstacles, that with random, household items to some extent. But yeah, I think walking around in the attendee area or the volunteer area or going into that DIY area would be a lot of fun, and you could learn a lot about what to do and how to build out your rig.
Yeah, 100%. That's the cool thing about these expos is that there are so much eye candy. And like you said, there's totally a ton of different products that accomplish different things and solve all these different problems. And some of them don't solve any problems. They're just fun to have on the rig. And there's just stuff left and right. I mean, you stand in one spot and you're consumed by 20 different vendors in that aisle or whatever it is. And it was really neat I think as a participant, it would have been really neat to just kind of walk around and get that opportunity to go look and get ideas of, how you want to build out your rig and different things you want to put on your rig and why you would want to put it on, or like, what is this problem? Or you find a product that solves the problem you've been having that you never knew the product existed before. And it's a really cool spot to gauge a lot of really ideas and get the brain juices flowing. So from that aspect of it, fantastic exposition expo. Some of the products out there, what were some of the more memorable ones that you saw or solved a problem maybe for you that you were having?
Well, I did pick up a toilet from Iron Man 4x4 since our interview with them. Who was it? Chris Miller that was saying that his favorite item was the pooper. I went and saw Cody from Trail Chasers, who's hanging out at the Iron Man 4x4 booth, and went and said hi to him. And then I started talking to Waz? I think it was Waz that was supposed to be on the podcast with us, but then last minute he got injured, and so they subbed out for the the CEO who we got to talk to. And so Waz came up and started talking to me and saying hi and how he's been following along with our journey since the beginning, and he's sort of fan or
cool.
starstruck to be able to talk to me and hang out with see me, and so it was fun to talk to him. And then I got to saw Chris Miller and talk to him a little bit more, and I told them like, hey, I want to pick up a toilet, like I want to get a toilet, you guys sold me on it. And they're like, okay, we got him right here. Mm-hmm. And he's like, we'll put one aside for you. And I said, no, like I can get it another time. He's like, yeah, we're probably going to sell out of all these by the end of the expo, so we should save one for you now. I'm like, no, if you're going to sell out, then sell out. Don't save one for me.
Sell them,
like, it's not that, I'll sell them. I don't need it right now. And they're like, no, we'll save one for you. Like, we'll put it in the front of the Bronco. It's all good. And so I was like, okay, fine. And so near the end of the day, with the mini assistant, we walked over there and picked it up. And then the next day we actually opened it up, and Lee wanted to check it out. And we started reading the box, and that their toilet can hold like 440-pound person. It's insane.
Jeez.
Right?
Is that
nuts.
like a dual person? Can you is there like two seats on it? You can sit there with a buddy?
I don't want to go in depth on that, but no, it's only a one spot, one hole. So yeah, it's pretty funny. But there was a lot of comments made in regards to the amount of weight that it can hold in pooping positions. But that was a really cool product. But I do think that so 2 years ago when I went to Flagstaff, I thought that trailers were the steal of the show, I guess. That I felt that everybody was showing off trailers, and trailers were the highlight, and there was more trailers than kind of anything that was at the expo. And at this expo, I really did feel that full-size vehicles and vans were sort of the steal of the show. I felt that there was a lot of sprinters, vans, and a lot of full-size rigs with cab-over campers that were the highlight of this. And I really, when walking around, and kind of going back to you can figure out how to build your setup by walking around these events. I was looking at all these sprinter vans, and at first I was like, they're all vans. They're all sort of built the same. They're all camping, living places. And then you start talking to these people that are building them out, and they're showing you little secrets and little gems and why they did this one thing that way and they didn't do it another way. And I talked to these two ladies that were from actually Oakland, and they were an interior design company for some of the major businesses down in the Bay Area. And then when COVID hit, they converted their interior design business to be interior design business for sprinter vans. And so they started,
That's cool.
designing out these sprinter vans. And then now that COVID's gone for the most part in the Bay Area, they have split their company into kind of two, and they're running two businesses, and they're running the sprinter van one and still the interior design business. So it's like for them that, COVID was a blessing, because now they were able to expand their business in a direction that they never thought was possible. But, that company that company specifically was more focused on the aesthetics, the design, well, the color, purpose, wood, materials that you're using over the function and design, and so it's like there's all these different levels of what am I trying to say? There's all these different levels of how people are designing it and why they're designing it. And so if you have like a Sprinter van, like that was the perfect expo to go to. If you had a cab over camper and you're looking, or you want a cab over camper, that was a great one to go to. I think the era of trailers might be slowly fading, and the era of small trucks is gone. There was so many more like larger vehicles than there was small like Toyota Tacomas on display.
Yeah, so that was the big thing. I got to sit down and talk with Mike from Metal Cloak, our Adventure Rack Solutions, and our good buddy there. And that was one thing that we noticed at the expo this year, was that just the proliferation of bigger trucks. There was a few Tacomas there from like some of the armor companies like CBI or C4 Fab, but for the most part, there was a lot of bigger trucks there. We're talking like Power Wagons, 1500s, 2500s, F-250s, quite a few more newer 2023 Tundras than I thought there was going to be. So it was really interesting just to kind of sit down and talk with Mike about that. And, what does that mean for their business? Because a lot of the stuff that they make is like modular racks for like Gladiators or that also fit in Tacomas. But now that we're seeing the Overland market make this shift to full-size vehicles, it was just kind of fun. It was fun to sit down and talk with him about that kind of thing. So, yeah, definitely we noticed that proliferation, that pattern of kind of where overlanding is moving to, thanks to Expo and being able to see all the vehicles that are out there kitted out.
Yeah, and then personally, on a personal side, I would probably never want to overland any of those vehicles. To some extent, it's like I think the point of overlanding is to get out into the middle of nowhere and go, enjoy the adventure across, out in the wilderness. Where I wouldn't want to really wheel those vehicles out in the wilderness, especially like, let's go to the extreme, like an earth roamer. Yeah, that'd be badass to be able to take out into like maybe the desert, but I wouldn't want to try to weave that thing through some trees out in a forest. It's not the type of
try and get that up Strawberry Pass.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not the type of wheeling or driving that I enjoy, overlanding that I would enjoy. I think some of those things would be great for a road trip, but not an off-road adventure.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I think that's an interesting point to bring up. What is the difference between overlanding, off-road adventuring, or just doing a road trip? Like if you're going out and, driving across the country or something and you're kind of living out of your vehicle, is that considered overlanding or is that considered road tripping? So, or is just kind of like overlanding turned into this just giant all-encompassing category of all these different things that you could do with living out of a vehicle, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. And I think to some extent you're going to do your own type of overlanding with whatever rig you have. So if you do have a full size or an earth roamer or some of these really, really large vehicles, then you're not going to do some of the more extreme, air quotes, rock crawling, overlanding, because you don't have that type of vehicle. So I think in a way you're limiting the off-road capability side of things by the vehicle you get. But also on both ends, right? Because if you have a small vehicle, and you got a family and you got to stuff everything in that small vehicle, you're probably not wanting to do as long as road trips or, some long stays, out in the middle of a desert, So I think there's extremes on both ends, but it's interesting to see the way that the overland market is moving to more full size.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. And then in my head, I'm always trying to figure out, like, is this consumers moving this way in the industry, moving the market this way? Like, are consumers looking for full-size vehicles, or are manufacturers making stuff for full-size vehicles and then the consumers are like, oh, that's badass, I want to move that way? Like, I wonder which is coming first here, if it's just kind of a constant back and forth evolution.
Yeah, I think it's both. To me, I think that the market is moving. The consumer is seeing things that is awesome, but also the how do you want to say that, the person building the vehicle is trying to build something badass that will make them a lot of money, right? And so I think it's one hand's feeding the other scenario.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, I wanted to get into a couple of fun stories that I had from the weekend. They don't really have to do with Overland Expo. They have to do because we were up there for Overland Expo. But some really neat stories that I think would be entertaining for everybody. And I think that one of them especially you're going to be really interested in.
Yeah, I want to hear. I left on Friday Friday night and went to a hotel and went out to dinner with the family. And right as I was doing that, Steve and Tyler came over with a few bottles of whiskey. And I was like, dang it, why do I have to leave now? There's all this whiskey out there. I want to try some whiskey. And so I wanted to hear how that went as well.
That was hilarious. Steve and Tyler. And, it seems like every time we hang out with Steve and Tyler from Power Tank, awesome people. We love hanging out with them. They're great. We love them. But it seems like every time we end up hanging out with them, we end up, having some sort of alcohol, whiskey usually, or some beer. And sure enough, they come hiking over.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely not. It just makes things, more fun with them. And some fun... whenever you get alcohol in you, it's a social lubricant, right? So you get some funny things coming out of people's mouths, and the filters tend to go away, and some really fun conversations come up. So, they came over and they brought four or five different bottles of whiskey. And then I had, on my way up there, I stopped at a grocery store to get some water, and I found a cookie dough whiskey. It's called Dough Ball. And so I was like, I'm curious. I'm just kind of curious. And so I bought that. And then I also had brought Lee's bottle of Old Elk that the secretary stole from Moab. So I brought that back for him. So we had, and then Lee had some plum wine and Santori, and I think something else. And then I want to say we had another bottle there of something, but we had like 11 bottles of whiskey out, and we were just doing a big, huge, tasting flight for everybody that was there. And it was all the Power Tank guys, myself, Lee, and Dakota doing it. And it was a lot of fun. And then we ended up getting some people walking by that were asking us either where the restrooms were or where food is or something. And we were like, I don't know where that is, but do you guys want some whiskey? We're doing whiskey tastings after hours here at the Delta booth. So there was four of them. They came over, started having some whiskey, and they had some fun stories. But my favorite one there was one called, oh my God, I forgot it, Oil Fire.
Okay.
I think it was called Oil Fire. It's a sweeter whiskey, but it was almost like a Pendleton Rye. I don't know if you've had Pendleton Rye, but Pendleton Rye, they had a bottle of that as well. And that's kind of a sweeter whiskey, but you still get the spice from the rye. And so this Oil Fire was very similar to it, but it had a little more sweet, a little less spice than a Pendleton Rye. And it was in this crazy looking bottle. Not really the bottle was crazy. The label on the bottle was all crazy. It looked like a circus tent. And so that one ended up being my favorite. The cookie dough whiskey reminded me of the maple whiskey that I love. And so that one was interesting. The Pendleton Rye was pretty good. And then those were kind of the ones that I stuck to. Everything else was kind of like, not a big fan. I'd drink it, but I'm not a big fan of them. Whereas the other ones, I was like, I could drink this whole bottle. So, yeah.
That sounds like a fun time. You did give me the cookie dough right at the end, right when I was walking away, and it was super sweet. But it wasn't it would have been good in a mixer, I feel, but it would have been one of those drinks that I drank it a finger or two of it, and then it would be too sweet to go back and have another round, in my opinion. But yeah,
totally.
I wish I could have stayed and sampled the rest of them with you guys. But yeah, we went out to sushi. Had to take the family out at that point, and people were getting hangry. And so, we actually went and had some really good sushi right there, right next to the expo.
Nice.
Before we went back to the hotel to clean ourselves up.
Yeah, it was a fun time. So Lee ended up pulling out his propane fire pit, and we're all kind of hanging out around that. And a volunteer who had been helping people park vehicles all day came walking by and immediately just comes running up to us and he goes, "Oh my God, can I please join you guys?" And we're like, "Why? Is it just because we have a fire?" And he goes, "You have the only fire in this entire campground area, this entire grounds." And so he came over and told us about his day and how volunteering works out at Expo. And it was pretty interesting talking with him, but he was a very eccentric fella that was fun to hang out with for, I don't know, he was there maybe 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then after a while, everybody just kind of was getting a little chilly and separated and kind of went their own ways and went off to bed.
Nice, yeah. They did have a bunch of signs up for saying no campfires, but I didn't feel that, or talking with Lee, it was like, I'm pretty sure that means no wood fires, and propane fire would have been totally fine. Yeah. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Sounds fun. How was the next night after that?
So the next night, Saturday night, was extremely intriguing. It was very entertaining. We got to go and hang out. It was me, Lee, Dakota, and then we went and hung out with Joey from Wits End.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So have you gotten to meet or hang out with Joey yet?
No, never.
Okay. That guy. Oh my God. That guy, the stuff that comes out of his mouth is hilarious. He has zero filter whatsoever. And he's got one of those brains that he views the world very, very differently from other people. Hilarious guy to hang out with. So that was fun getting to meet him and hang out with him for the evening. But we went over to God, what was that? It was kind of a
you went
Mexican
to Sun River, didn't you?
Is that where we were? I don't know where we were.
Did you drive past Bend that evening?
I have no idea.
Okay. All I saw was a photo.
I am directionally challenged, Jimmy. You should know this.
Yes. I saw a photo from Lee saying that he met up with somebody down in Sun River that converted a Tacoma's front end to an FJ80 or something weird like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he did a lot more than that. So, okay. Yeah, we started out at Sun River Brewing. So I guess we were down in Sun River?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, this is, we're started out over at the brewery because the Sun River Brewing, because the restaurant we were going to have dinner at was full and they were waiting for a table to get cleared. And so as we're walking into the restaurant, we walk past this truck. It's a Toyota truck. And we're kind of looking at it. We're like, that's just really clean, but it was odd, right? It looked really, really clean. It looked OEM put together, but it was really odd. There was some weird things going on and we didn't really dive into it at first. We were just like, that kind of looks like an odd little truck. And then as we were about to go in the restaurant, Dakota stops and he goes, his bumper is wrapped. And we're kind of looking at it and we're like, interesting. It was a white steel bumper that was wrapped with a white vinyl. And we were like, what? Why would somebody do that? And so we're looking at it and looking at the bumper. And so me and Dakota are kind of interested now looking at some of the things going on. And then Lee comes up behind us and he goes, you guys, that's an FJ80 front clip. The whole front of this vehicle, the fenders, the front grille, the headlights, the bumper, the whole front end of this vehicle is an FJ80. And we're looking at it and we're like, oh my God, you're totally right. And so we start looking, now we're kind of intrigued, right? And so we called Joey over and we're like, Joey, have you seen this truck yet? And he's like, yeah, I kind of noticed as we were walking by, it's got an old school, it's a Hilux of some sort. I imagine it's imported, but it's got an old school, mid-70s tailgate on it. And we're like, what? And we're like, no, have you seen the front end? It's got an FJ80, whole front clip up here. And so he goes, what? And so he comes over and starts looking at it. So we've got me, Lee, Joey, and Dakota, like all over this truck now. And like the whole, you just got to envision this scene because the whole restaurant right there, the front of the restaurant had no windows on it. So it's just clean pass through to everybody that's sitting in the restaurant. And so everybody in the restaurant, it's pretty packed. They're like looking at us for causing this scene, trying to figure out what this truck is. And everybody's like, what the fuck are these guys doing? And so we're going around and we figured it out. It had suicide doors on the rear. So like the rear seat doors were suicide doors. It had the body of...
Was it a double cab?
No, it was an access cab, an access cab.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm pretty sure there weren't any trucks in the United States, any Tacomas that came with suicide door access cabs.
I'm pretty sure the second gens did.
Okay. I don't know. I don't remember the second gens ever doing that, but he said that once we found the guy, he said that there was 1 year where the second gens had a suicide door from the factory. So, but anyways, I'm looking at it and the interior, the dash looked like an LX 470 or a GX 470 or something, kind of like a 100 series dash to it. It didn't look like a second gen Tacoma interior. But the cab looked like a second gen Tacoma. It had the front clip of an FJ80 and then it had a mid 70s tailgate and it was all bobbed. So the bed of the truck was bobbed, however much it was bobbed, but we're just kind of like looking at it and there was no seams from the welding on the bob. There was no seams on the tailgate from fitting a mid 70s tailgate, Toyota tailgate into a Tacoma. There was no real seams on the front end to cut and weld an FJ80 front clip onto a Tacoma. And we're just like, what the hell is whoever did this knew what they were doing and has a really interesting story about the choices they chose and why they chose to do it this way.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like a Frankenstein.
Oh, it was totally a Frankenstein, but it was like a super, super clean Frankenstein. Like, usually if you see Frankenstein vehicles put together, they're not super clean. Like it just looks like somebody threw shit together and, welded the seams here and there, but you still have like welded seams that you can see. And this had none of it. And we were like, this is really, really well done. Somebody put a lot of time, thought, and craftsmanship into this vehicle. And at one point we were trying to figure out what engine and drivetrain were in it too, because it was a manual. And so somebody got a picture of me and Joey laying on the ground under the front end of the truck with Lee bending over trying to see what we're pointing out and looking at. Wow. To figure out what drivetrain it had in there. And meanwhile, everybody in the restaurant's like, who the fuck are these guys? Like, what are they doing with this person's vehicle? Sure. And so we got to a point where we're like, we couldn't find the person. He wasn't in the restaurant we were going into, he or she. And so we were like, okay, so we told the hostess of the restaurant we were going into, we said, hey, if you see somebody come out here and get in this truck, can you like stop them and come get us?
Right. Okay.
And she was like, okay, whatever. And so they were at the restaurant next door. And so Joey's wife, Jessie, she has a notepad that she carries with her, and it's a what the fuck notepad. And so she took one of the notes off and wrote on the back of it and then put it on the windshield. And so we're in the back and, we're getting ready to order food and just kind of hanging out and BSing with everybody. And the hostess comes running up and she goes, they're here. They're in the truck. You guys are looking for that truck owner, right? And we're like, yes. And so we all like got up and bolted out to the front of the restaurant. And this guy is standing there and we're just like, what is going on with this truck? Who are you? Like, what are you doing? What is this truck about? And the guy just looks at us and he goes, let's go sit down and have a beer. And we're just like, oh God, here we go. This is awesome. We're all excited. We're all dancing on our tippy toes. And so we took him back to our table in the back of the restaurant, sat him down, bought them beers. It was a guy and his girlfriend. And the guy's name is Carl with a K. And he has a really really interesting story that Lee ended up having his recording equipment, his podcast equipment with him. And so we ended up sitting down and recording a podcast with Carl there at the restaurant. And it was one of the most fun things I think I've ever done.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So I'm not going to get into too much of what Carl's story is, but look for that episode over on Cruising to Camp when it comes out. Really freaking cool guy, super knowledgeable, extremely smart, but like super laid back and into traveling and all the thoughts for all the decisions and the stuff that went into this truck for what he was doing with the truck, which was a whole nother story in itself, was a really neat. So everybody needs to go check out that episode over on Cruising to Camp whenever Lee releases it. So that was Saturday night, and making ourselves look like idiots in front of the restaurant, and then finding Carl and like just getting to sit down with him and hear his story was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Was the whole crowd there? Was Joey and Dakota and everybody sitting around at that time?
Yep. Yeah, it was pretty much Lee kind of talking with Carl, and then every once in a while me or Joey would grab the microphone from Lee and be like, well, what about this? What about this? Cool. What were you thinking when you decided this? And so it was a lot of fun. That's
awesome. I'm excited to hear that story after you explaining all the randomness that went into this vehicle. I think that'd be really interesting to hear about.
Yeah, it had the 4-liter V6 engine, which is, the common one for the second gen Tacomas. But it had a factory supercharger on it. Apparently that only came like for 1 year as well. Wow. So, that truck has been to over 17 countries, and it had the factory supercharger. It just reached 6 figures on the odometer, so 100,000 miles recently. But it was really cool, the way the whole thing was laid out and the thought that went into it. So,
cool.
Yeah. That was kind of like the highlight of the entire trip for me personally.
Yeah, I think that's one of the advantages to going out to these expos. Is as much as it's like, oh, we hung out at an Overland event, but the thing is, you get to meet people that you never would meet before. You get to see things that you would never see before, and you get experiences like that are out of the box, random, that are outstanding and wonderful, that would probably never happen unless you went out and put yourself in that environment.
Yep, exactly. So. Yeah, it was really fun. Overland Expo was a good time. I think we're definitely going to do it again. We're at least doing the Pacific Northwest again for sure. I don't know if I'll go out to Flagstaff. We'll just have to kind of see how the schedule sets up next year. The big thing for me, it was really stressful leading up to Overland Expo because I broke the 4Runner again.
What?
So...
what happened?
Yeah. I lost my rear drive shaft while I was on the freeway. So, I was heading up to Cantina for the con in the 4Runner, and I was just like, I'm just going up to, Rob's Resort for the day. I'm just staying on highways and pavement. I don't need to take my tools. I don't need to take all spare parts or anything. I just need my booth set up. And so I loaded up the booth setup into the 4Runner and took off early Saturday morning to get up to Cantina for the con. And going through Sacramento on Highway 50 in the construction zone where they have up all the barricades and you're like, you can't go anywhere. There's no shoulder or anything. My transfer case output, for the rear output, the nut that holds the flange on, which is a staked nut, it backed off, and the top end of my rear drive shaft came off, but stayed attached to the axle, the pinion, while I was on the highway. And so I was able to coast the rig off of the highway and get to a relatively safe location. And I got out and I was like, I don't have any of my tools. And so I had to call the secretary, and she had to bring my trail tools backpack down, which weighs like 80 pounds. And so she almost couldn't lift it into her Subaru in order to bring it down, which is that was kind of one of the things that made me realize that I needed to go talk to Step 22 while I was at Overland Expo, which was a lot of fun. Adam's a great dude. Joel helped me out, and Joel has a rock crawler in Colorado or Montana that he builds second gen Forerunners. So we geeked out over second gen Forerunners for a little bit. But anyways, I've decided now, since the secretary had trouble lifting my toolkit, that I need to kind of organize and get my toolkits straightened out a little bit better. So, but anyway, she brought that down to me. And while I was stopped there at the off ramp, freaking first gen Mike shows up, just randomly rolls up. And I was like, Mike, what are you doing here? And he goes, what are you doing here? It doesn't look like you're having a good time.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, things could be better. I could be further up on my way to Cantina here. And so he was hanging out with his girl, his daughter, and they were going to go up to Loon Lake with Mike's dad just for the afternoon, just to drive around and hang out around Loon Lake. And so running into first gen Mike Toronto was a lot of fun while I was out there. And all I did was I just pulled the rear drive shaft and then drove back home in front wheel drive. So just kind of shoved the output flange back on and drove home in front wheel drive. And I tell you what, the Forerunner has never driven smoother or quieter than that trip back home.
Interesting. Okay. So, well, do you think your rear drive line is not vibrate or is not balanced, or do you think that the fact that your pinion nut, or your rear output flange nut came loose, that might have been the thing that was making a noise?
I think both. I think both. So because I don't run a double cardan on the rear drive shaft, I think the drive shaft angle is too extreme coming out of the transfer case. And so I think that was causing a lot of issues, a lot of my vibration and noise issues in the drivetrain. And so I had a new drive shaft built, and, I went to SAC Driveline, and I was like on Tuesday, because Monday was 4th of July. And I walked in right when they opened on Tuesday morning. I was like, hey guys, can you just copy this drive shaft and let's add a double cardan to it? And they were like, yeah, no problem. I was like, okay, cool. Here's the next question. I'm leaving to go to Oregon on Thursday, and I'm supposed to be gone for a week and a half. Is there any way I can get it done in a day and a half and pick it up tomorrow afternoon? And the guy just laughed at me, and I was like, okay, I get it. That's fine. I'll just take the F-150. I won't take the Forerunner to Oregon. I'll take the F-150, and I'll just have to dip out of the Milestar trip, which I was really looking forward to. I guess Milestar does a trip called XPDN4 or XPDN, and this was the 4th time they've done it. And so it's a lot of the brands that are partnered with Milestar tires, and we got invited on the trip with Trail Gear. And so I was really looking forward to that, and running the Forerunner up there and towing the little camping trailer around with it. But when that's really hard to do if you don't have a rear drive shaft. So I had to cancel that trip. Which is nice because, I don't know. It's not nice. I really wanted to go on the trip, but it is what it is. But I broke the Forerunner again, so I didn't have the Forerunner for Overland Expo. And what really is kind of messing with my head a little bit is, in theory, the shop, Standard Auto Care, that I took the Forerunner to for the transmission and the clutch replacement, they had no reason whatsoever to mess with that rear output flange, right? They only should have just taken the 4 bolts of the drive shaft to drop the drive shaft off of the rig, so that they can drop the T-cases and the transmission out from under the rig. They had no reason whatsoever to mess with that rear output flange nut. But they also had no reason to mess with the input cover on the transmission. And they also removed some hardware from my center console, some of the brackets that held my center console together. They removed some of the brackets and lost those and never put them back in. And there was no reason to remove those. So what's really messing with my head now is, did they remove my output flange nut and then not put it back on properly and stake it? I don't know. I don't think they did, but now that's just kind of in the back of my head because they messed up all these other things I shouldn't have touched either. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea either. I mean, there's obviously a possibility that they did remove it and just didn't crank it down or stake it properly. But there is also a possibility that since your drive shaft, since you're not running a double cardan, your rear output and the output of the T-case and the input for your pinion might not be at the right angles. And I do know if they're not at the right angles, very slight vibrations happen and can and possibly do loosen pinion and output nuts. So there is a possibility that could have been it as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's more of the possibility. So I haven't been able to run a double cardan because of I don't have a body lift, and there's a cross member right there as well that I can't clear with a double cardan. So I think what I'm going to have to do, I'm having my new drive shaft built with a double cardan on it. So I'm going to have to cut that cross member and either create a new cross member or find a way to replate and gusset that cross member with a different design to it than the factory Toyota cross member. Because right now a double cardan does not clear that cross member right there at the output of the transfer case. So, yeah, I'm going to have a little bit of work to do, but I have a couple weeks to do it. The next time I need the Forerunner is for the July 30th weekend when we go and do a bunch of trail maintenance on the Rubicon and Barrett Lake. So until then, I'll just kind of keep using the F-150 for events, but it's also this whole trip and the situation has made me realize that I really need to have a vehicle that I can take to events. That's really the event vehicle that I don't go out and play with and break and put a ton of stresses on. That way it's available for events on a set schedule. Because right now the Forerunner, the more and more I keep going out and playing with it, the more maintenance and stuff it needs done. It can't be ready on set schedules. So I've got to have to figure out that problem in a little bit here. And if I never get my Bronco, then I've got to figure out a different vehicle. So
sounds like you're going to need if you're going to go to the Overland Expos, you need a full-size Sprinter or an Earth Roamer.
Ooh, let's get an Earth Roamer.
Yeah. MORRFlate money, hashtag.
Man, I don't even know if we do enough profit in a year for an Earth Roamer in general. But anyways, some other shout outs. So on Sunday night, we drove back, and I drove back with Lee, and we stopped and stayed at Castle Crags State Park. I didn't get to go around and check it out at all. I was kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of a lame little camping area that's all pavements. It was just too clean for camping for me. But then after listening to the pie episode with you and the assistant, I was like, oh, there's a viewing area that you can go and it has some really cool views and a couple other little hiking areas around. Like, I didn't see any of that while I was there. So now I'm kind of like, oh, I kind of want to go back and check out some of the things to do because I didn't realize there was anything to do at Castle Craig State Park. I thought it was just kind of like a place to pull off of the highway and have a campground, a place to sleep for the night. So
no, there's all kinds of, there's a bunch of hiking trails and different things. Part of the PCT goes right through it, right? And like we kind of talked about, and if you're into rock climbing, you can climb the crags. And so there's like a 3-mile hike up to the start of the crag, those crags there, and then you can literally rock climb the crags, to the top, and there's a path on the backside down, or you can take the path on the backside up if you wanted. But yeah, there's while you're driving through that area, it's really predominant. It's like these cliffs, granite cliffs that stick right out of the mountain and straight up, to make like a castle looking feature. And yeah, you can hike those, hike up to them. You can hike up to the viewing area. There's a bunch of hikes around there, and there's bears, which we did see, so that was fun.
Nice. Yeah, that's a little bit more interesting now that I kind of know what's there. But that night was really fun. We got to hang out with the Wagon Tech guys. They stayed there that night as well. So I finally, I got to meet Alex for the first time after having all these different interactions with Alex through the podcast, through the YouTube channel, just through social media. And so finally getting to meet him and then just hang out with him for an evening and BSing, and that was a lot of fun meeting Alex at Wagon Tech and James and Lance. And then at the event too, I've kind of gotten to, I don't know, I've been having a lot of fun getting to know Justin from Factor 55, because it seems like anytime I go to an event, he's there. That guy is everywhere. And so we've started, chatting and, hanging out at the event, and shout out to Justin. He, well, not really shout out, just kind of like I hope everything's okay. He was there and he brought his family. And so they were staying at an Airbnb nearby, and his dog ran away while he was out at the show on Sunday.
Oh no. That's sad.
Yeah.
I hope they figure that out. Find him.
Yeah. I haven't gotten in touch with him yet to see if they were able to find Joey. Joey's their dog, is a 12 to 13-year-old Labrador. Yeah, he was packing up the booth on Sunday, and I went over there to say bye to him, and he was like, dude, this is going to be one hell of a trip. And I was like, oh, really? Well, good way or bad way? And then he told me about Joey running away, and I was like, oh, bad way. Yeah, dude, and so anyways, Justin, if you're listening, I really hope you found Joey, and that all worked out, man. That sucks.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. We'll have to give an update and get in contact with them and see if we can get Factor 55 on the podcast and see if Joey was found.
Yep. Yeah, we are planning on Justin coming on the podcast. Apparently, he got kind of a new role at Factor 55, and his role has been simplified a lot now. Now his main and sole focus is just going out to off-roading events and other kinds of events nationwide. So he's pretty much always just on the road now. And so with the new software that we have, he said that he has a lot more time to sit down for a couple hours on an evening and get an episode in. So be watching for an interview to come through here with Factor 55 pretty shortly. I think before too long, we should be able to get him on the show here. So that's another kind of exciting thing that came out of Expo. And then the last shout out I wanted to give, and certainly not the least, because there was a lot of really cool people I got to go and meet with and say hi to while I was down there, or up there, I guess, was Nate from Dirt Lifestyle. So got to sit down and chat with him for a little bit, which was a lot of fun. And he's actually out on the Rubicon this week. Actually, he's out there right now while we're recording. So I gave him my phone number and said, hey, if you have any issues, go find the cell phone tree and give me a call, and we'll get up there and get anything solved or run parts that you need. So yeah, he was hanging out there all weekend, and it was a fun time. It was a fun trip, but I'm glad I'm back and can get things going again, and looking forward to a couple more off-roading trips here coming up soon.
Yeah, that it sounds like it was a good event for you. I do think that having MORRFlate at PNW Overland Expo is a major step, and I think that it's the perfect spot for MORRFlate. I think that definitely overlanders and off-roaders could use MORRFlates, and having a booth space at one of these major events is a massive step. So congratulations on that.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, it should be good. There was just a ton of people I ran into that I was like, yeah, what do you do for airing down and airing up? And they were like, I don't. And I was like, what? What do you do when you go off-roading then? They're like, we just run street pressure. And I was like, why? Your poor spleen, please air down. And they pretty much, the consensus I got to was, I don't know if you listened to the last episode with Wheeling Wine and Whiskey, interviewing Nick Bailey from Avalanche Technical, the second episode with Nick. They were talking about the number one thing you should do for recovery purposes is air down, and there's just so many benefits to it. But Nick was talking about how have a good air down system, because that way you will be more likely to air down. And it's like all these people I talked to, they all had ways to air down and air up, but they hated using them because just there's no good options out on the market. And so it was just interesting to me, coming from a person, who I'm a staunch believer in airing down, and then hearing these stories from everybody about how much they don't like airing down and the methods that are currently on the market for airing down and airing back up. I'm 100% with you. There's too many people out there, and it seems like they're very prevalent in the overlanding market where it's just too much of a pain in the ass to air down, so they don't. Which, there's a lot of negatives and drawbacks to not airing down. So I agree. I think that we're going to be kind of focusing events more on kind of the overlanding side, because that's where a lot of, I think, the education needs to happen at. We'll see how it goes in the future here. I think I need to hire somebody to do events though, because it was very, very draining on me trying to do everything while being out at the event. So yeah.
No, I get it. I mean, as in just being there one day, I was trying to get interviews, trying to do networking and see the event all at the same time. And that's one of the reasons we only got one interview from that entire, event, is because there's just too much happening all at the same time, especially if you're there for one day, and if you're working your booth like you were doing, then you can't really get away and you can't go do all the other things, view the event, or, get an interview or talk to other people to try to network or any of those things. So yeah, I think, bringing up an employee or maybe having people that have MORRFlates that might be able to volunteer some time. Maybe you can get some of your influencers, maybe, to spend an hour or two in the booth so you can run away for a little bit. I don't know. There's probably some things we can figure out.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. So, that's Overland Expo.
Yeah. I think that's a good conclusion of it. And if anybody out there has any questions about Overland Expo or, wants to attend an Overland Expo in the future and wants to know more about it, feel free to reach out to us. You can email us at Jimmy or Tyler at snailtrail4x4.com. You can find me, snailtrail4x4, on Instagram. You can find Tyler at 4x4 Toyota Tyler. You can also phone in and ask us questions at 916-345-4744.
I like it, man. Any final words for everybody out there?
Get out.
And with that, my friends, keep crawling.
An invisible man married an invisible woman.
Okay.
The kids are nothing to look at either.
Okay.
These were sent to me by Charles Locke.
Oh, God.
Who had his 90-year-old grandmother sent them to him, and he forwarded them on to me.
That makes it so much better.
Right? They're pretty good. A whole list of puns. They're pretty funny.
I didn't know that Australians had jokes like that. Or funny. Yeah.
Studies show cows produce more milk when the farmer talks to them.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a case of in one ear, out the other.
Got it. You can milk anything with nipples, Jimmy.
Yeah. Can you?
Yeah.
My wife claims
Especially
I'm the
from Australia.
Oh, yeah? Good to know. The assistant claims I'm the cheapest person she's ever met, but I'm not buying it.
You're not buying it.